Hello, in this clip I want to talk about some visions of the future regarding historical studies, history studies, and that meaning, I include both concerning my children, my child, your children, our children, also adults and all that. We can see that the internet brings out everything. So when Buddha said there are three certain things, the moon, the sun, and the truth, that is all right. And the truth is coming out much more easily now with the help of internet, but with it comes a lot of false info, and everyone thinks they know what is right and what is wrong. The thing is, and I've been talking about this before, I think we're going to have a really a balkanization of history, basically, where not only that this country sees something from one perspective and this country sees it from another perspective, but I mean within a city, within a very homogeneous nations, people will become more into various parts of history and be sure that that is correct. And the most important thing is what the internet does is that it will dissolve false history, propaganda, and lies. Now, when I say lie and propaganda, everything has a bit of truth in it, but things can get exaggerated and things can get used politically. So and the bigger something was sort of preached, propagated, and believed about, and then internet comes along like a needle and just smack, the balloon explodes. The bigger the explosion will be, and the bigger the opposite side of that will become extreme. For example, if we take account of the 6 million Jews in the Holocaust history. Now, the 6 million figure has been spoken about in media and newspapers even before the World War, where there were claims of 6 million people, 6 million souls have been vanished or threatened and all that. I'll link to a video here which shows you some examples. So the thing is here, when somebody criticizes that, it's not about there was nothing going on, just the Nazis were very nice people. Wrong. The thing is, something was exaggerated, and when that exaggeration implodes, it will create lots of radicals on the opposite side who will sort of see, for example, Hitler as a good guy, really good guy, and the Nazis as the best, form of organization, because they will realize something was, the numbers weren't right. They have been changed. That's a historical fact. And, and they will also point out that the biggest genocidal people of the 20th century were actually Jews. So all of this will be used against the victims of World War II regarding the Jewish people, and the same can be applied for any other group. And in World War II there were so many other victims, in Russia, Stalin, 20 million on his hands, and the starvation period that the Bolsheviks did in the late 30s or early 30s, and the direct responsible person for that was a Jew, and that's just facts. The same thing goes for the Vietnam War. The same thing goes for the Balkan Wars here. People will realize things weren't really what they were told to, how their parents or school or media told them, but they were slightly different. And wherever there are certain exaggerations, the implosion can really cook about on the other side. For example, today, I'm critical of the mass migration of men coming into Europe, but at the same time, that can sort of create a vacuum backlash on people who just appear, who are of Arab descent who are just doing about their normal lives, they will be maybe a long-term victim of this because too many of the bad kind come in and they look like you, and so therefore you are associated with that kind of people. And there are many examples in history of this. So for anyone who's listening to this, I'm sure you understand that I'm not taking any position here. I'm just illustrating how history is like a, the more it's, the more the bow is like tense, the bigger the release will be. So the beneficial history is always the one that can really be honest from the start. But that's also a very dangerous thing, because that can be used against certain people or certain kinds. Take the example of the Tibetans and the Chinese, two versions. And this will also create a very strange situation in the future, because people will sort of meet and have totally different opinions about history. They will know the same basic facts and dates and all that, but they will look at it completely different. So we're gonna get a balkanization of history. And once again, I always try to sort of tie down whatever I talk about into something that one can do on an individual level. So for me, I always take copies of important documents. I collect books and all that stuff, and not just the things that I'm necessarily interested in, but also things that are important for the general picture, and also various takes on certain events. So and I want to keep that, because you never know, the internet might be gone within 2 years. So if we still have electricity, it's a good thing that you have backed up much information. And as parents to be of teenagers or in years to come, I think when they if they go to a certain school and they teach them just one side of the history, sort of I would like to have a kid that can go there and tell no, Stalin did this. Oh no, weapons of mass destruction, this is. If they're interested, I mean, it's our responsibility. And coming from the academic world, there are really good historians out there, but any good historians is always into one, you have to narrow down so much, so they are mostly into one area. But it is our responsibility as a community of people to take care of our history. Now the problem is, of course, nobody wants to take care of history that doesn't suit their own preferred beliefs. And but anyway, that's something one can do. So instead of complaining about this and that and always being the victim, you can actually collect history. You can search for books, you can back up electronical books, documentaries and all that. And then in 20, 30 years, you don't know how important that will be. There was a film, a totalitarian film, and the title I can't remember right now, and I don't want to make a long silenced pause here to do that. But anyway, there was a man who had a basement, and in that basement he had hid vinyl records, rock music, artworks and books and all that, just to sort of keep it alive. Unfortunately, in the film, he gets busted and everything is burned and destroyed. But one of the main characters gets inspired by that, because it sort of sets in motion a rabbit hole kind of adventure for him to realize that what he's a part of is the wrong idea, and that there was much more before that. So this is something we all can do, because the link I will link below regarding newspapers and the 6 million figure of the Holocaust It's very interesting, but it also illustrates how important it is to actually keep the documents and to back up. And I know that, not all people have the time or the interest, but if you do, do that, start, and within 5 years you will actually have a certain library, and you can always back it up and stuff. Yeah, it all depends on what one's interests are. And my interests are, one of them is history, or just reading about history and realizing history is always, various perspectives on something that happened. And the truth is always on each side, exaggerated here, exaggerated on this point here, and so on. I don't want to sound like overly diplomatic, like there is no truth, everybody has a right to it, but in a certain way you have to be to stay alive with that interest. Otherwise you will just be an angry person or something. So yeah, where was this video going? Yeah, okay, so internet will change our history. More things will sort of come to the surface. We will have a balkanization of history, not between countries and regions of countries, but within communities, within cities. And we already see that. You look at how America is polarized, and I can take like Gothenburg in Sweden and here in Mostar. And it doesn't matter if a place had a war or it was peace. Eventually it gets polarized because people like to attach themselves to certain ideas and visions of history. And then we have the educational form, which always presents a propaganda view. Somebody comes up with, this is the history everyone should know, and we have to publish this. I understand that, because the school can't take in all perspectives. That's why parents are responsible to do that, or friends, or just good people around kid who are interested in history. And but within all that, by maybe doing it yourself, collecting all the data, documents, documentaries, or knowing someone, it's always a good thing. And also to know how to search for information. I find it fascinating that you can actually search within newspapers going back 100 years, like digitally. And then when you find something, you can actually go to a library and see the real paper. I've been in those archives. It's quite interesting. At the time, I didn't have any specific information to look for, but it's very cozy, very X-File-ish sort of analog, But anyway, that was that. So we just have to take responsibility within the digital age of history and realize that things will stir up and happen. And what we will get, in my opinion, what I think is going to happen is that every story that has been within a lie, like weapons of mass destruction, Pearl Harbor, 9/11, what went on there. The truth hasn't really come out. People are not really satisfied. People are questioning it. And World War II, what did really happen? How many people did the Soviets kill? How many Germans were killed after World War II? How many people did Germany kill? What went on in the occupied nations by the Nazis? Wherever there is a bubble that's been not seriously, but just, based on propaganda and lies and political use, things will head the other way around when people realize that. I mean, to some extent people are like that, because as soon as you feel like, oh, I believe this, I believe that, then you realize, oh no, something was wrong with that, people might just get away from it completely. And to balance up that, we all have to take responsibility of people who are interested in all this. And that's, yeah, just some thoughts once again. Nothing is scripted, but yeah, I take the time to record these videos while I can. I'm just about to make lunch. So bon appetit, take care, and all the best.